this is Jo with stampingjo.com, and today I'm super excited to start something new on my blog. So we're going to, every month, I'm going to pick a set of products and I'm going to show you 4 different cards that are made with those products and a video to go along. So let's get started. For this month, I am going to focus on the Tropical Chic stamp set and some of the coordinating products that go with it. So from the catalog, you can see Tropical Chic is on page 121, and it goes with the Tropical Escape suite. So it has lots of coordinating products, the stamp sets, the thinlits, the ribbons, the cardstock, some buttons, and some designer series paper. So I didn't want to add too much to my kit. So for this particular one, I'm focusing on the stamp set, the thinlits, the designer series paper, and the Tropical Escape cardstock pack. Now this cardstock pack is great because it has the 3 coordinating colors that go with the designer paper in that suite. For that, you'll get 24 sheets and there is 8 of each color. So it's a really nice variety if you're using this suite to be able to make lots of different cards. So for today's card, I really focused on SIP, so stamps, ink, paper, just to kind of get you started on how to make the card without using a lot of tools. So I'm using 3 of the colors that come in that: the Blushing Bride cardstock, the Granny Apple Green ink, and some on the designer series paper, and then the Shaded Spruce ink for one of the coordinating leaves and the greeting. So let's get started. To begin with, I have a piece of cardstock already cut to 5.5 by 8.5. Now, when I cut cardstock in this dimensions, I just use my bone folder to fold it. So I loosened the fibers a little bit. Take your fingernail if you have one, or just your finger, and match up your corners. Start off your paper and finish off your paper. Okay, so that does your fold, and when you hold it and stand it up, it actually stands up like a tent card really nicely. I've already pre-cut 2 pieces of cardstock that I'm going to work with. So our Whisper White, if you don't have our Whisper White yet, everybody needs this cardstock. It is fantastic. It comes in a nice pack, and it's really great to stamp with. Stampin' Up! Creates it so that the images are really nice and crisp. So this one here was cut to 4.5 by 3.25. And then for the mat, I just cut it 1/4 inch bigger. So it would be 4 3/4 by 3.5. So I'm using 2 of our new styles of ink pads. Now these ones here are a little bit different shape than our original one. The Blushing Bride is still my one from last year, and it opens up slightly different. So let me show you how that does. You still have your front. The stickers come on the back, so you can actually place them on the side so you can see what ink it is when it's on your shelf. It has this little ridge here. You're going to take it, flip it, and then just put it into its place like this. When you first open up your ink pad, you might feel that it's a little stiff. What I did on some of mine that were really stiff is I actually rubbed a little bit of wax on the inside. So I just took like a regular birthday candle actually and put a little bit of wax here so that it slides a little bit better. Okay, so that's that one. We're gonna open up this one, slide it into place. And then the regular ink pads, you push, flip, and slide. So that's the difference between the 2. So we're going to start with our bigger leaf because it takes more space on the cardstock. I wanted to start with that one. These new ink pads are really nice and juicy, and they actually ink up your stamp really nicely. So you can see you get really nice coverage. You don't have to press hard. And just hold it in its place for a few seconds as you're stamping around. Okay, so next I'm going to use this leaf here, and I'm going to use that in the Shaded Spruce, so a nice darker color. And just have it offset to the other ones. Next, I'm going to fill some of this white space with our pretty tropical flower in Blushing Bride ink. The next thing I want to stamp is my greetings. So I cut this piece of Whisper White to 2.5 by 1 inches, and I'm using the shaded spruce with our thank you greeting. So I'm going to put that off to the right a little bit, like that. And then I'm going to take our paper snips, and I want to just cut out a little V to make the banner. Like that. Okay, so some of our stamps can be washed at this point, so I'm going to show you something new that we have, and it is my lifesaver. So I take my stamps and put most of the ink on my scrap paper, and then we have our new Simply Chamois. So what you do with this is you actually just wet it with some water and kind of take some of that excess water out. Now I have it in one of my old stamp cases, which actually fits perfectly. We do sell these stamp cases, and they're great for storage if you want like to store this or markers or small embellishments. They're really fantastic for that. One note though, if this is wet and you do store it in a container like this, don't close it up until it's dry, because they can get moldy. But they are so fantastic to wash your stamps off. You're literally just taking the ink right off, and you don't have to use any spray. There is no lint that goes on your stamp, and it does a fantastic job. Every once in a while I rinse it out just to get if there's like excess ink that's on there, and it will get loved like this. But to me, the more colorful, the more rainbow colors, the better. It just means that you've done a lot of creating. So that's how I wash the stamps. Okay, our next step is going to be taking a background stamp that we have in the stamp set. I don't have to stamp the whole piece of cardstock because most of it is going to be covered in the middle, but I'm going to take the outer edges and just use this stamp to add a pattern. So it just adds a little bit more detail. So now that I'm done that, I'm actually ready to assemble. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 layers. My snail adhesive is my favorite adhesive that I use all the time for stamping, and it is super strong. You don't need a lot of it, and you can just do some strips. And then I'm going to take my pattern that we made and just attach it to my background mat. I used some designer paper. I chose this one here, this pattern, because I thought it went really well with the colors that were in there. The great part about the designer series paper that comes in this suite is it's 6 by 6 and they're all double-sided. You'll see that there is some fantastic, beautiful patterns in there that will coordinate with so many different cards and designs, even using other stamps that are not in this suite. You have lots of designs that would go with them. So this one here, I'm going to use my snail again. And you want to attach it kind of in the middle of your card, like that. Then I'm going to take my layer, add my adhesive, place that in the middle. Now the good thing about the snail adhesive is the first time that you buy it, you get the whole thing. Every other time you can actually just buy the refills for a cheaper amount and pop them just right into the applicator. The last thing I want to do is add my greeting. Now for my greeting, I wanted it to be popped up a little bit, so I'm using some dimensionals. So we're going to take, I like to take 3 on a size like this, so 3 dimensionals. And then get that paper off of the back side. and just place it to the edge at the bottom right of my layer here. It's nice to just have it popped off the card like this with a little bit of dimension. It just adds that extra pop to the card. So here you have it. It's a under 5-minute card that you can make with just 3 different colors of inks, a couple of colors of cardstock, and a little bit of pattern paper. So the next thing I want to show you is a little bit of a Step It Up version that I created as well. And this one here, you can see I used a different designer paper, but it's pretty much exactly the same size. So it's 2 inch by 5.5. I stamped the same background, but what I did on the card is I added an extra layer right here that I put through my Big Shot with one of our embossing folders. So you can see that adds extra little texture. And then instead of just cutting a rectangle and making it into a banner, I took our Stitched Shapes framelits, one of my oval ones, and I cut that out. And then I also stamped a flower and cut it out using one of our framelits that coordinates with the stamp set. So there you go, your 5-minute card and your little Step It Up. I hope you enjoyed this video, and next Friday you'll have another idea using the same product, same colors, and just a different card design. So I'll see you next week.